All right, everybody, welcome to Dose Town. And today we've got another exciting one. Me and Grayson both topped on the Online Treasure Cup on over the weekend, so we figured we'd get just a quick little updated deck profile. I know you had done one with Richie and Kevin earlier, but this one will just mostly only be focused on Lucci because Grayson and I both ended up with second and third place.
Yo.
Yeah, so we had intended to actually run pretty much the same 50, but we kind of lost something, some communication somewhere along the lines. But the lists are very similar. So on the screen right now, we have Grayson's list, which is two cards different than mine. You opted to play one extra Khalifa and one extra Jack, which is whereas mine did not. So
Yeah, the jack was intentional, but I blanked on changing it in time, so the third Khalifa should have been a seer, but it's
hmm,
fine.
yeah. So other than that, if if you made the change, we would have been one card different because I just last minute I kind of like opted to play a zero cost event over the fourth jack, which is fine. It didn't particularly overperform or underperform. I don't like. You want to talk about your feelings about it? I don't know if you talked about it much in the other deck profile video.
The Six King pistol was kind of whatever. Honestly, like I think with 23 bricks I was fine with it, so I didn't feel like I ever really needed the Six King pistol.
Hmm.
Ugh. Like a lot of times I felt like it ended up just getting used as like just like random swings of like 6Ks or something.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, oh, I want to put a Lucci in trash. That was like my best case experience with it, and besides that, it was kind of whatever.
Yeah, so I think that's like yeah, it's typically whatever, and when it comes up, it's very good. That where like you need to pitch your Lucci into your trash, but we can talk about it more in the matchups. And it's just like a small thing. It doesn't really matter either way in the terms of the grand scheme of the deck. So this is Grayson's 50. Here's mine on screen right now. Uh yeah, like I said, the main difference was I wanted to run just one copy of Six King Pistol, but I think going forward I'll just run the fourth copy of Jack is what we're both thinking about. I think if we just talk about main differences from most people's lists, we're really just shaving in specific places and opting to run Soap Sheep for the Dofi matchup. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Grayson?
Yeah, I think like I don't think you have to run Soap Sheep, don't get me wrong, but I think like from my experience so far, I think having Soap Sheep means you can win like the God Roll Dofi games, whereas like normally you can't.
Yeah, and I tell that a lot to a bunch of people who ask that like the Soap Sheep, like if you really don't like it, you just don't have to run it. But if you want to win those games where they go Jinbei on turn two, Jinbei on turn three, like the only realistic way is like they have to break right after playing double Jinbei on you, which doesn't happen ever, or you need to play Soap Sheep so you can clear one of the Jinbei combos. Otherwise, like you're just too far behind.
Yeah. Like if you can double clear even one and then like jack the next, I think you're still fine. Like you'll take a 5K, but like compared to like before where you would have had a four body board to deal with your first Gecko, like it's fine.
Hmm. Yeah, so let's also talk about just some of the other, I guess, you can call it choices or optimizations that we've made. I we Most people run four copies of Brook at this point. Like me, Grace and I had talked about it a lot, and like the fourth copy feels really unnecessary in terms of like you really only ever want to play one Brook. So if one ends up in your trash, it's very accessible. Multiple copies like feel kind of whatever in hand, and you're just so likely to see it.
Yeah, I think it's like if it's a matchup you actually care about it, you just mulligan for it. Like against like Bonnie or Dopey, I just trying to mulligan for it. And besides that, I'm just like if it gets in my trash, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, especially because because Rebecca typically grabs and plays Brook, you essentially do have more than four copies of Brook, so eight copies of Brook just feels really overkill. So
Yeah, especially if you go second, like against like Bonnie and anything else like that, it's like at that point I'm just grabbing it back off Rebecca anyways.
yeah.
So then it feels like even less impactful to run the four.
Hmm. I know some people opt to cut Helmeppo. We've kept it because like we still expect to see a lot of the mirror. So funny enough, I don't think you or I have played a lot of mirror over the past couple of weeks, have we?
I think I've played two in a tournament, like two
Yeah.
every tournament so far.
Yeah, but I mean,
I
two
mean,
in a tournament. If you expect two in a tournament, it's good enough to come up, essentially.
I think the better argument for the card is like him being able to be like if you have a brook like Everstick against Dofi, you're able to do like Gecko play out Helmeppo plus like Rebecca whatever,
Hmm.
and then you still have Leader Swing to reduce if Jack sticks on board, so you're like more easily accessible to doing double pop once Jack stays on board.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas with Suru you have to do something like awkward.
Hmm. The other thing that people do a lot in these versions is cut Sabo from any number of copies down to like even one. It's not something I like a lot. Sabo in the mirror is very important. Sabo against BY is very important, and just having a blocker that doesn't die to random things or get popped by random things is honestly super important in the metagame. Is what it feels like. But I don't know how you feel about other people cutting Sabo.
I think it's like whatever. Like I don't know. Like personally, especially like going back to like especially against like Dofi, I really like Sabo actually. Like there's a lot of the time where I feel like I'm like partially ahead, and I use Sabo to like get down an annoying body that doesn't get lob blockered while also like filtering my bricks out before I gecko.
Yeah, oh,
So
yeah,
like
definitely.
I think he has a lot of like value honestly. But yeah, like the ideal world is like you're on like 10 Dawn and they have two bodies on board and you go like Soap Sheep Rebecca combo and you have the Sabo already in hand, so you get to do just like an insane turn against them.
Hmm. Yeah, but I think overall, if you don't find the value in Sabo, it's not like the worst thing to cut. It just seems very off. I feel like if you expect a lot of BY, a lot of Lucci still to cut Sabo down to like one. I feel like two is like the minimum. I don't know if you have like a hard line on what a
Yeah.
minimum is.
I think it has to be too, especially with like Lucci was the highest represented deck this weekend again. It was like
Hmm.
205 Lucci to 201 for Dofi.
Yeah.
So I think those two alone basically took up half the event. So
Yeah.
I don't think there's a world where you can't afford to play at least like less than two, and then BY was the third highest. So it's like between those three, I would just play three because your top three matchups you still have to see at least a Sabo a game, right?
Yeah, basically. And then I guess before we get to the Nightmare Luffy, let's talk about Hina. Hina has been popping up in pretty much everybody's lists over the past couple of weeks as like a one of or a two of. So while we were deck building and like talking about it over throughout the weeks, I was actually like not very like hyped about this card at all. Like I found the card to be like incredibly mid most of the time, but then over the run this weekend, it actually really overperformed for me at the one copy. It came
Yeah.
up against my gaming as Eggman, where the extra body actually netted me lethal, and like a bunch of other situations where I didn't have Ice Age, but Hina came up. Funny enough.
I think she actually came up more for me this weekend at one than she did at Wisconsin at two,
Mm-hmm.
ironically enough.
That's funny.
Like she was very I think also Dopey players are starting to play Kaido, so like
Mm-hmm.
having another way just to like make sure you can hit that awkward 10 cost number is really important.
Yeah. And I mean, like, and also the body is just like not something to ignore. That's the part that like I found the most valuable was the body initially, more than the -4. But like the -4 attached to a body is not something you can really complain about, and especially when it's only one copy, it's a very powerful one of all things
Yeah.
considered. Yeah.
I actually played it in one of my mirrors this weekend, where
Mm-hmm.
I played her on tempo on three because I had Sabo in hand. So I was like, okay, if you don't kill her on exactly four, I play Sabo, and then from here I actually just poke you down with Hina for the whole game.
Yeah. Like it's kind of funny how much just one 5K body really adds to your pressure.
Yeah, especially going first. Like it just actually, I'm pretty sure like she single-handedly won me the game because then it was like she got two swings in, my Sabo got a swing in, and then I jack on seven, and I'm like, okay, have fun clearing three bodies in one turn.
Yeah. And then let's just talk about the tech card that I mean, definitely not everybody's on, but like more people are starting to get on it as the time goes on. Is Nightmare Luffy? Like, I was really high on this card at first. I forget if you really agreed with me on it, but like, I pretty much always had it in my list from the beginning, and like it does so much in every matchup, and it's really fundamental, like funny enough, or not fundamental, but really like annoying in the mirror, especially considering we don't play Kuzan anymore. The forecast. So like it makes going second feel
Yeah.
better if you see it.
Yeah, playing him on six feels really impactful all the time. Honestly, I think my exact take was I'm not a fan, but if you like it, I'll try it.
Yeah, yeah. And then like
But yeah,
I don't think he. Oh, so good.
I don't think he's ever left my list. I think I've played him at two since the start.
That's sick. Yeah, because I think like ever since you put it in, like I don't think you've lost to like. No, I think maybe you lost to, like one BY, but I don't think you've lost to BY like that often or nearly as
I
much
lost
as.
I lost to one and beat two.
Yeah,
The one I lost to, I also saw the nightmare, but it came down to I was a 2K short. He had double ace pair.
yeah.
Like he saw each of them individually, and I was like, oh yeah.
Dude, Ace Fair is so
If I
basic.
had if I had one more 2K, I think I won that game, and then I would have beat every BY I've played.
Hmm. But yeah, I guess let's just talk a little bit more about Nightmare since we're like yeah, obviously in the mirror like you want to go first now because we don't there's no room in the list to play four cost on. It's just too greedy, especially with
Yeah.
Dofi running around. But so if you find it going second, it actually happens to be very good going first and second. Like if you drop it on five or drop it on six, and there's no pressure from your opponent's previous turn. Obviously, it's really intended to be BY tech. Um, you want to talk about the gameplay of, against BY with it?
Yeah, I actually have been like, so the thing I've been messing with is taking first from them now because it's just like having Jack on curve is so powerful against them. But yeah, if you can do like Brook on three, they don't really have a good out to it before you get down Jack. So you essentially guarantee the first five drop doesn't exist. So you've already got the Brook down, and then you're like, all right, let's put Nightmare down on five and just put another threat on board.
Mm-hmm.
Because if Jack's coming down right after, they can't really afford the Thunderbolt Sabo. And even if they do, from there it's like, okay, I hope they don't have Gecko and just value it back to their hand and start looping it. Like you can just loop the Nightmare so hard against them, it's kind of impressive.
Yeah, and like Nightmare also like in their hands where like your opponents like isn't like super ideal where they're struggling to actually like keep 9K base with a blocker. Sometimes like if they don't have two Sabo blockers, they end up at 7K one life with a Sabo blocker because they can't afford to risk Nightmare trashing their Sabo and just all inning for cards. So like it creates very awkward situations for BY if you just have it and like their hand is not optimal essentially.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I've used it for is just slowing them down. Not even like killing
Yeah.
the Sabo blocker, but just be like, oh yeah, you're Gecko, that's cool. I kill your first Gecko every time, so now I have Gecko Jack on board Nightmare compared to your like punch Loopy Sabo, and that's it.
Yeah, and it saves you so much counter, so much like gives you so much time to play, even play like a second gecko if you get there. Like it's
Yeah,
crazy.
exactly.
And the other thing is, I guess some people have problems playing with the card. I guess, do you have any advice for people who are just struggling with it? Like they try it and they don't like it, but they just want to keep trying it at this point.
I think you, I think for the most part, the only times you're like forcing yourself to play it is against like BY and like the mirror, but I think it's more just like understanding how to set him up really.
Hmm.
Like I think especially in the mirror, I think he enables you to win a lot of games where it's like, oh, I went first and like I had a lackluster amount of top end, or even like going second and like you just Gecko on eight and
Yeah,
like you had a lackluster hand, but like they had more top end than you, but since you Sabo Nightmares so aggressively on 10, you can just start punching them down and just say like, all right, we're starting the Rebecca Sabo war early and I have a huge lead now,
yeah,
even though you shouldn't have because you had less top end.
yeah. That makes sense.
And then I think against like BY, like BY, I think is actually there's like the a matchup where like you just basically let him rip. Like he's so annoying to out because no one's playing pistol anymore, and they're just like, I only play Thunderbolt Sabo. So it's like if everyone's just on that idea process, it's like okay, let him rip on five, let him rip on nine with Rebecca like Nightmare. Like you can just keep putting him on board and making them have to out him.
Yeah. And then like in general, like I think the mirror and BY is probably the hardest time setting him up. I will say like they are like kind of small windows sometimes, but like against other matchups, if you're having troubles with it, I wouldn't say it's like the card's fault itself. Like your hand might just be weird. Like against Bonnie, I'll just put it down on five, and if they freeze it all game, like it did its job, because you assume that it swings removing something, and then like they're just scared of it all game. Against like other matchups, like aggro matchups too, like if you get him on board, he should just be scary enough that like he either blocks or they have to do some weird things to play around it, which I think is like all you should really ask for. You shouldn't expect him to win the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was say my Bonnies, I think, like last weekend, both of my Bonnies, I saw him on curve, and like it, like straight up just was an auto win card.
Yeah.
But I think both of them were like games where I saw him in the initial hand, so I just didn't play a body before 5, so like I could just play around Hawkins at all times, basically.
Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like if you and I will say that if you're willing to give up the BY matchup, you don't need to play the card. Like the big reason it is there is to play against BY, and you can just cut it if you really don't like it that much. It's just one of those things where like in a best of one format, your Saki tech cards are worth a lot. You know what I mean? Like if you see them and like it gets enough mileage, like you don't have to give up the matchup, which I think is important. And like BY or B Nightmare is good enough against BY that like I don't like two slots is whatever, especially when it's like still pretty good otherwise.
Yeah, also another matchup I didn't expect it to do good against that it actually does is Anel. If you have to go
Oh yeah,
second, playing him on 6 is actually like game changing.
yeah, because like Anel's way to like beat you normally is like they go first, they play a 5 cost that outs your whatever you play on 4, and then they go 7 cost 7 cost. And if you can't out the first 7 costs, it's like okay, I guess I lose because then the second one comes down and there's two like unkillable 7Ks just shitting on you.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Whereas
yeah,
like now it's like I can go like they could just can't play the card because if they do they just know it's automatically dead.
yeah, and I guess for people who don't know the text, like on the text on 7 cost Anel is that he can't protect himself by ripping a life if there's a Luffy on board, and so it's actually incredibly like it's actually really crazy to be able to just out it with Nightmare and still go face. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for just talking about tech cards. Is there anything else that you want to point out on the list, Grayson?
I think for the most part, besides that, like we're pretty generic. I think it's just
Mm-hmm.
really the soap sheep, the Sabo, and the like nightmare like allocation slots.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, I know a lot of people hate Husu.
Oh,
um,
eh, it's
I
weird.
don't know. I like Husu. I feel like Husu is just like a 2K Kaku in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And like also he's not bad in the mirror. I've been playing him more and more, and I feel like there's a lot of situations where like your opponent plays like Lucci Vanilla on 4, and you just going like swing leader Husu, set up your trash and kill their guy is like actually game warping.
Yeah, and like five
Because he is
costs.
like yeah, he's that annoying hostile line where they're like struggling to answer him.
Yeah. No, no, I agree. Like the other thing that I like about Who's Who is that because we know now that all the Dofis are gonna be on Teach, and a lot of them will try to play it against you. Like sometimes you just out like you do need to out the Teach, and it's very hard to do while addressing all the bodies. And so like sometimes like Husu out of life, like killing Teach on turn one, it like changes the game entirely for you. Like they end up neg one, neg two, essentially if they use Teach effect, and then you can focus on just slowly clearing the 4 cost bodies, which like gives you a lot of space, especially in like
Yeah,
the worst hands.
I think if they teach combo and they didn't like I think it's like they have like 4 cards in hand on turn 2.
Mm-hmm.
So like yeah, sniping teach puts them in such a bad spot, I feel like.
Yeah,
Um, no, I think even then it's like the amount of times I just play him from hand on 5 to just like kill a body consistently and swing into the other is like fine in my opinion.
yeah, and like the other thing is like because it's a 2K and it's 5 costs, like it doesn't get bounced by law, and a lot of times the Dofi players won't bounce it to your hand because they don't want to give you a 2K. So like you pretty much always get the 5K body that sometimes blocks because they want to swing into it because they may not have enough counter. So like playing it in Dofi in the Dofi matchup is actually comes up a lot, surprisingly.
Yeah, I think he's like probably my like honestly besides Suru, I think he's the best 2K in the deck by far.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I've definitely
But
found
I
myself playing Khalifa less and less, to be honest.
yeah, I think at 2 she's like fine. There are a lot of times where like Brooke sticks and like she's good enough off like your Gecko combo to go like Gecko like Rebecca Spandine Helmeppo and play
Yeah.
out the Khalifa and like filter, and I think she's like good enough there. But like that's it.
Hmm. So yeah, I think that's really it for the list. I figured we would also just talk a little more in depth about our matchup or just matchups in general. So, do you wanna just pick a matchup to start with, Grayson?
I think we can like honestly probably like the mirror. I feel like the mirror is probably the one that we might like have a better approach with because of the build, honestly.
Yeah. I think just in general, like for the mirror, you definitely want to go first now. Like you just assume no one's playing 4 cost Kuzan or like 6 cost Brook, any weird Saki tech, just because they're just not good enough like against Dofi that like you can afford the deck building space. But if they do end up on it, I mean it's whatever. The mirror is winnable either way, even if they're on the tech. But in general, you want to go first. Hopefully, like you pretty much always want to have a 5 drop. I don't know about you, like when I mull, like if I don't have a 5 drop, I'll pretty much always mull. Like
Um, I think I'm looking more for like Spandam into Jack, but as
mhm.
long as I have either a 5 drop or Lucci, I don't care.
Yeah, 5 drop or
Because,
Lucci, just something to play on for that's like an actual like swinging body.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
As long as you have an actual stat line and not like a Brook. Like I feel so bad playing Brook on 5.
yeah. I don't
But
particularly
yeah,
care about Brook on 3. Do you?
I think he's like fine in like some cases, but I think I'm more often like, and I think I feel like I'm more often rewarded for just going 5-5 with Spandam.
Yeah, for sure.
And just like putting on like the early game pressure to where like once we get to like 7 dawn turns, if you saw the swinger on 5, it's actually like relevant, and you start getting cards out of their hand a turn earlier than you normally would.
Yeah, especially because like when you have something that swings and it sticks, and then you play Jack, the player going second like cannot like generally does not have the resources to be able to actually clear both the swinging body and Jack in the same turn on 8 Dawn. It just takes too many cards. Like a lot of times, even if they do answer both bodies somehow, like they're like -5 or something or -4.
Yeah,
It just takes
it's
way too many
bad. And if
cards.
they clear Jack, they'll probably like at best if they're just clearing Jack, they're like swinging like 5 or 6 into your rested body. So it's like
Mhm.
you lose one card, but then you just net like another card. You net a card again off the card, so it's worth it.
Yeah. And then so
And it's
like,
like,
oh sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
Okay, then it's like since we're playing 3 Sabo, like then you could start like Sabo snowballing early, because like if you jacked and then like you don't have another top end piece, but like they're clear for your jack was like a Lucci combo, then from there a lot of the time I'm more comfortable just jack like Sabo comboing from there, honestly.
Yeah, agree. And I
And
think
you
that's
just
like,
start out with a body lead.
mhm. I think it's like one of the benefits of our build is like we have more 5 costs that are like playable. So that way, like when you want it, like you should generally always see like a swinging body on 5, and then because we have the extra copies of Sabo, you're more likely to be able to start playing Sabo whenever you want. Just because
Yeah.
yeah, like most people are not just on 3 copies of it.
Yeah, that's
Um,
also why I wanted to run the fourth jack though. I know you didn't end up you said it didn't end up mattering in your matches, but
no.
like yeah, for mine I was like I always drew one jack and I drew two, I think, in both my mirrors. So like multiple times where I was just like, oh yeah, I didn't see Gecko, but since I saw Jack, I'm in the exact same position, if not better.
Mhm. Yeah. Let's also so then let's talk about like in our build going second. It's a little like generally you're kind of like shit out of luck when you're going second now because you don't have Kuzan to like get extra value, see extra cards to potentially remove Jack on 8. In, in the mulligan hands going second, I always mull for an out to Jack. I don't know about you. Like if I don't see like a
Um,
way like all the reduction I need, then I just mull.
yeah. I normally mull for the reduction events, or I'm keeping because I have like Nightmare Hina.
Yeah.
That's like the god roll hand, I'm pretty sure right now. Is like you have Hina in hand, you have Nightmare in hand, and then you have like a reducer event. Then you're like, alright, well now I can just nuke your jack if you don't out my jack on 6, and if you don't jack on 7, then I win anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Has been my thought process.
Yeah, so like generally like ideally you have Nightmare on 6 and you just play it. And then I will say that like of all the times that I've played it in tournament where I play Nightmare on 6 and my opponent just plays Jack, they always lose. Like it doesn't matter if you have like Sabo to lock down your Nightmare after. if they just go Jack and then you have the out to it with Nightmare, like your pressure going face afterwards is just put you ahead.
Yeah. I say a lot of the time it feels like even if it's like a Rebecca combo to like play out the Hina or something, and
Yeah,
like that's how you clear their Jack, it's still good enough. But like obviously the dream is like you have like Tempest Kick, Ice Age or something, and you just nuke it and then play a Sabo, and then you're actually just so far ahead.
yeah. Like if you have like the ideal combo of like Ice Age plus something, play Sabo and lock it down, and then you have the two 6K bodies on board. Like the mirror's over. Like at that point, because like whatever they play after dies to the Nightmare, and then you can still play Gecko. And then it's like there's just too many things to out, and you got like four free swings at face basically.
Yeah. And you also just like don't care if they Sabo lock because you can always just like always have the Nightmare on board and it just never dies.
Yeah,
It never dies easily, I should say.
yeah, and it just never dies easily. Or like if they like swing a bunch at it, you can block, or like it's just like a pass turn essentially. If they just jam all their Dawn at Nightmare to make sure it's off board, so it works out for you most of the time. So being able to Nightmare on six to dissuade a Jack is really like has been really impactful in the mirror when you lose the die roll. But I will say that there is like a little bit of like counterplay if like you're expecting everyone to start playing Nightmare. Is like you can start like looking at like playing Rook on 3 or 5 in anticipation of Nightmare if you know you have Jack in hand, right? Just to set up your Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only problem is everyone takes so aggressively in the mirror, they have like three chances just to trigger kill your broke for free.
Yeah, which is yeah, that's like the sucky part.
It's like that, or also just if they like have it, or like they have a spandom and like they have a bad trash already, they could always just like Lucci on four to kill your brook.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
Like, yeah, I think I've had games. I have a lot of games where I feel like I end up just outing the brook on four to set up my nightmare. Like if I already have it in hand, I will play towards it like that way.
Mhm. Yeah.
'Cause I feel like that's their only way they come back from you playing it on curve.
Yeah. But yeah, like other than that, like the mirror is like pretty normal, right? Like as long as if your opponent misses removal and you have a Sabo to lock in, like that, just like normal Lucci mirror stuff. We've been playing it for a set now, right? Um, but like yeah, like those are like the new nuances, I guess. Now that the builds have changed, for sure.
Yeah, you
Um,
just can like you just assume no one has a value gecko anymore. So it's like
yeah.
having like the extra cards in hand is actually so much more impactful than before, it feels like.
Hmm. Now let's talk about. I guess let's keep going through the black matchups. So to me, Smoker and 3D2Y Luffy are like the same deck. Just kind of like you pick your preference. A lot of the North American players like Smoker more than they like 3D2Y, and like Europe loves 3D2Y. I how do you feel about the matchup so far?
So I played against one smoker and they played a jack, I killed it, and then from there it felt like a normal mirror,
Hmm.
which is like neat, I guess.
Yeah,
It felt like a mirror, except they were less consistently able to like clear my gecko. And I'm pretty sure it was like I saw two geckos, they killed the first one, couldn't kill the second one, and I was like, okay, Sabo, GG's.
yeah. Like the big
And
problem
like,
like with both black decks, like when you're playing just like a black mirror, is that they never like only Lucci has easy double clears for geckos and stuff like that. So like when you play a gecko and it clears like their bodies and then they try to respawn to yours, like most of the time they never have a double clear, so you always end up with one body that you can eventually snowball into like a Sabo lock or something like that. Or it's just like kind of unfortunate that double clears are not easily available outside of Lucci.
yeah, I think the other big thing for me is like their outs to jack are like so much more non-existent than ours.
Yeah.
Like if I play a jack against smoker, I'm assuming it like never dies.
And sometimes the like Spoker I think has an easier time because while also like developing a body because they have the Tashigi, right, that has -4 on it. So it's like Ice
Oh yeah, I guess
Age and stuff like that,
like
yeah.
what? Yeah, Ice Age leader effect.
Yeah.
Actually, no, they still need another reducer
No, they need
past
one more
that.
reducer, but they can get there. 3D like but 3D2I don't expect it to like ever remove a jack without like essentially just being a pass turn. Like
Yeah,
it's just like so bad for them to remove it a lot of the time.
Unless they have like exactly double Ice Age, and it's like, okay, cool, you neg 3'd your hand to kill my Jack. It'd be a shame if I just like
Mhm.
played another one.
Yeah, so a lot of times the matchup really does like in those matchups like just establishing Jack on your own like really works out in your favor. Like they have a hard time removing it. Yeah, and it's just good for you in general. And then like your geckos are better. That's like the problem with playing the other black decks is like if you run into a black mirror, you're just strictly worse than playing Lucci. Like almost
Yeah,
yeah. I don't know how. So for when you were in the die roll, what do you prefer? Yes, both. I've been like I think in general, like almost every matchup we just take first.
I think the
Yeah,
only matchup I'd like maybe want to take first, which I think I said this to somebody when they asked me this actually on like the post last week. I think the only deck I took second against was like Nami.
yeah, pretty
I think that was
much.
like literally it, and that was just like to play a Lucci on 4. That was the thought process, and just like like get rid of a draw for them.
Hmm.
But I think like yeah, every other deck I'm just taking first now because just like Jack on 7 is so oppressive.
Yeah, yeah. I can't think of another matchup that I would take second in either. To be honest, I don't think
Yeah,
so.
it's just like there's just too much like going for you if you just take first now. It feels like.
Hmm. So yeah, that kind of covers the black matchups. Let's talk about I guess BY black adjacent. Um, Obviously the matchup is still unfavored for you, regardless of just like running the nightmares. You need to run more tech to actually make it like hard favored, or even like slightly favored. But like it's pretty winnable as is with our build. Like what I would put it in like the range of like if you see nightmare, it's like a 4-6.
Honestly, with how it's been lately,
Mm-hmm.
I'd maybe even put it as a 4-6 if you just like if you just get to go first and see like the Brook Jack combo.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I feel like that is actually like a lot more game warping than I originally noticed because it was like unless they play exactly Sabo, then it's like they get hard countered by that Brook, and it's like if me playing a Brook means you never played Punch Loopy early, it slows you down so much more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So like same thing. You want to take first. Ideally, you see Brook on 3, Nightmare on 5. You really do want to see Nightmare like the sooner the better because Nightmare will not save you from losing. I just say that this,
Yeah.
yeah. But if you see it on curve, it makes the situation very awkward. And then obviously you want to see your big bodies. Like the only way you're gonna win versus BY is having bodies that can attack naturally while you devote the rest of your dawn to blocking.
Yeah, the only problem with like Jack is like you can only put one of him on board essentially
Yeah,
because after that you're allocating 2 Dawn and then like you can't Rebecca Sabo, so it's like you have to see your geckos. But like Jack also helps with that.
yeah. And I guess this is something that may make that's nice to know is like after I play the first Jack, I always just cycle out the rest of the Jacks with Jack effect if I use it or like whatever cycle that you're using at the time because yeah, 2 Dawn's too much. You can't Rebecca. Yeah, not being
Yeah.
able to Rebecca Sabo and swing 9 is with your second Jack is it's just not worth it to put it on board.
Yeah, as I say, a lot of the time I feel like I end up in a spot where it's like I'm not swinging with the first Jack I play the next turn, I'm never swinging with it because they're not awakened yet
Mm-hmm.
or like they're about to awaken and I'm like they're already gonna put themselves at 0. I'd rather get the draw, honestly.
Yeah,
And a lot of the time you end up just like putting cards in trash that you need for your gecko because your gecko's not always like properly set up at that point.
yeah, no, for sure. And then like the other thing is like because you're seeing extra cards and they actually go to your hand, it makes it easier to see a gecko if you don't have one in your hand as well. Like
Yeah.
that's
The,
the
the
nice
the
part.
snowball effect on the card is really impressive, honestly.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, like you just pray that that they don't have too many geckos for whatever counter you have in your hand, right? Like
Yeah.
9-9 Rebecca Saba every turn's like the dream.
Yeah, I actually I think the one I beat this weekend, my final turn was 9-9 cycle with Jack double Sabo pass. My ending hand was like 4 2Ks and 6 1Ks.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I think I live.
Hmm. I will say that in the scenarios that you do end up with Nightmare on board and like you're pressuring, uh, in general, the nightmare really is there just to like make the turn awkward. But like if they get into a situation where they try you and like they go to 9K immediately and just say like I'll go for it or something, right? I think in general like I've always gone for it. Like if they go 9K one blocker and like I have the reduction, I'll just do it just to get all the cards, even if like I have a gecko in hand. I don't know about you, but like the cards are worth it to me.
So unless I'm like guaranteed dying next turn, I think I always go for it just because it's like you can stabilize after that, and the
Yeah.
fact that you're putting them on like a drastically smaller amount of cards normally is worth it in my opinion.
Mhm.
Like especially in the world where like you put them on a two card hand, then it's like even if they have Gecko combo, they really can't like do anything besides exactly swing over Nightmare Pass.
Yeah.
And if they ignore the Nightmare, then like you just go crazy.
Yeah. I will say that like all inning maybe when they stay 7K one life, it's probably not good. It really depends on your numbers. But like if they go 9K zero life and one blocker, like I pretty much always go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think especially like the more I've played it, the more like I feel like you kind of stay at like three life pretty consistently until they do their first like Gecko combo.
Yeah.
So it's like I think on average, yeah, like if their first awakening turn is like even especially if it's like Egghead Sabo, like there's no doubt in my mind I'm going for it. But even if it's like Punch Loopy Sabo, I think I'm still just sending it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And then I guess let's talk about the yellow matchups then. Let's talk about Enel a little bit more. We already kind of briefly covered it. Like the way you lose is like double rush Enel hits the board and you don't have an out. So obviously you want to take first. Any five drop is honestly really good because like Enel will not win by starving you, and if you do, you should thank every god. You know, I don't know why people do it, but yeah, like
I,
pl-
th-
go ahead.
I was gonna say I think the card that actually overperforms that matchup is Hina.
Yeah, putting a body that does reduction is pretty good.
Because like Jack sticks so often, I feel like a lot of the time you get to the point where it's like, oh, I can actually just clear their stuff for free now because I have exactly like Helmeppo, Hina, and Trash for Gecko.
Yeah.
And like then you start getting to the point where like you stockpile reduction events for when you don't have Gecko
Hmm.
or Jack, and then like you just get to a point where it's like nothing is ever sticking and you have just like an insane board because like the ability to just play Hina, Helmeppo is so oppressive for them.
Yeah. I know some people talk about playing the matchup like Lucci stars Enel, and then you play Jack so that way they have to Raigo it. How do you feel about that? I personally I don't care. Like I just set them to two
Uh,
or one because I want to feel trash. For me, like I care more about feeling my trash than whatever that they're gonna lose, like starving them.
I normally just set them to two because honestly, I feel like the better win, or not the better win con, but the more consistent win con for me has honestly just been milling myself out basically, and then like you put back all your Tim Biscuit geckos, and then you just go infinite.
Yeah, like that's the matchup where like no like having the skill of like memorizing your stack as you bottom cards like really like shines.
Yeah, but then like even if you don't get there, then I think if you don't like even then it's like just Jack is such an annoying card for them because they can only out it with one card in their deck,
Yeah.
and it's like the turn you play Jack also, especially going first, you just never turn it on seven
Yeah, yeah.
because
You
like
just never turn it because like they will always go 13 at it or something, or just some kind of way to remove it, right? And it's like
yeah.
it's never good for you
If
if
you
it's
just don't give them
sideways.
that out, their 8 down turn feels so bad because it's like, oh yeah, like you can't do Kata now, so it's like you can't put a boss monster on board for yet another turn. And it's like if you Raigo me, I'm like, I don't really care, I'll just play it again.
Yeah, play it again
And
or
like
play your
him,
gecko, grab it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Him being loopable makes it to where it's like Raigo just like isn't really a threat in my opinion.
Hmm. Yeah, it just like prevents them from aggroing you out like that way. So like yeah, personally, I'm fine with swinging, and it sounds like Grayson is too. The yeah, basically like it comes down to like you will always outvalue their top end as long as you have the reduction. So like like setting your bottom deck correctly, drawing into it, and and just like not overcommitting like when you don't have to for game is like really important.
Yeah, I think honestly, it just like as long as you keep up with their boss monsters, you're never in a spot where you can get sacked because it's like you shouldn't really have to allocate Dawn to like do anything more than just poke them for most of the time. So
Yeah.
it's like by the time you actually have to go for lethal, they have like 3 cards in hand, and it's like as long as you have a Rebecca, you could always just stall another turn.
Hmm.
Even if they only like if they have one boss monster stick, you can obviously still just like stall out from there. So it's just like as long as you play patient, I feel like it's so hard for them to like actually like cheese you.
Yeah, like I don't know, like in like the setups like to get lethal, like a lot of it will be like fought like swing base numbers with whatever is on board, like five with leaders, six with like a Lucci or whatever that gets played, and then like if they take down to one, and you have like two boss monsters, like both will swing, then or whatever, right? But then if it's like, oh, they'll like take the five, counter the six or whatever, and like or counter both the five and the six and stay at two, and then I'll just like play my boss monster pass, right? Because like all you do is poke, like
Yeah,
overcommitting.
actually, I think in a lot of those spots, I actually end up swinging at their like big guys
Oh
just to
yeah,
get an
yeah,
extra card.
yeah. Like you for sure just should swing at their big guys after like you're done like pretending to threaten that you can go for lethal or something, right? Because like I'll always start
Yeah,
with like five
exactly.
face. If they counter, like I'm happy, and then I'll go at their boss monster. But like until they start countering, like then I'll just go face.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the time though they're just like, oh yeah, I have 2 life, and then I still have my trigger. Obviously, I'll just take the 5K, and then it's like, oh, you took the 5K, cool, 9-9, and I still have a 6K on board, so you have to
Yeah.
pray you have a trigger now, or you have to give me 3 cards 2 times.
Yeah, and then like once they give you cards, you're just so plus, right? It makes it speeds up your ending the game so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we could briefly talk about kata. It comes and goes, right? People like try kata, don't. It's a very like similar principle. Like you just play your removal, and like ten mom doesn't really matter. Like at the end of the day, like most of the time I take like almost every hit. I don't know about you.
I feel like a lot of them don't hit you actually. A lot of them, or at least, I guess I haven't played against much kata. I've played against a lot more pudding than I have kata so far this
Mhm.
format. And all the pudding players, I feel like, are just kind of like, oh yeah, I'm swinging 5, or I'm only hitting your board, and I'm just gonna play all my 10 moms, and they're just gonna try to like sack you. So they never actually hit your face, and they try to like pseudo starve you.
Yeah. It's just like it never works out because like they're stuck playing the one body a turn, and like if you ever draw Ice Age or like multiple Ice Ages into that plan, they always lose. It's like
Yeah,
so like
I don't
it's
know. I think it's just like they just lose a Sabo as a card. Like Sabo as a card just hard counters yellow right now. It always has. So it's like I don't know.
yeah,
Their lethal math is always so like awful.
yeah. Especially because like I feel like every time like I see Kata now, like they're not like on very many copies of Amaru. Because so sometimes you even just get away with a Rebecca because like oh I only have two copies or something. It's like what? Like that sucks.
Yeah. I don't know. I think also like for the most part, like Kata's not the deck like people are like competitively putting time into anymore. So
Yeah,
there's probably not like a good list that like uses a frame anymore.
yeah. Let's see. Other matchup, Bonnie. Bonnie's like one of our easier matchups that like gets a decent amount of rep. Like, what can you do? Like,
I think it's just like honestly like if you can do math, I think it's probably your easiest matchup.
yeah, like the only way I've seen so far that like you really lose to Bonnie is like, oh, you just don't draw reduction events because like the numbers that you need to kill things is actually very awkward. Like eight is like you really do need Ice Age. Like Hina doesn't cut it. Like even if you have Jack, because like sometimes Jack gets frozen, so like you do need to draw reduction events there. So like in those games, like I mull for events in that against Bonnie. I don't know about you.
I'm more for events or again if I have like Hina Nightmare because Nightmare is actually really good against them.
Yeah, Nightmare's good. I've found that like sometimes the Nightmare hands are awkward because it's like oh they have like Carrot or Bonnie or whatever freeze your Nightmare, then you get into like Chain Dophies and it's like then I'd really rather prefer to have all the reduction events.
It also, I think it also depends on if you're going first or second. If you're going second, I think Nightmare is like unplayable to be fair.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think it's only going first. But if you go first, it's like playing Nightmare on 5. It's like, oh, anything you play on 6 is dead, even Hawkins, and it just feels so bad for them.
Yeah. Yeah, like Hawkins is not nearly as good as it used to be for sure. uh,
Yeah, I think it's just your going second curve is so much worse as Bonnie now. Though, like you can't like you just like not having the eroge makes like Hawkins as a card just so much weaker now.
mhm. Yeah. I've let's see. What else is there to mention? Like in terms of like new things Bonnie gets from the starter decks, like for our matchup, it is the Shanks. When I had tested the Bonnie like initially, I didn't play very many copies of Shanks. I played like one, maybe two. But Russell is playing like three. If anybody follows Russell on Twitter, but I think like that's like the more correct approach because like nine cost Shanks just being like a strict out to Jack actually is like a very good like big gain for Bonnie. But yeah, like in general, still like it doesn't help. It doesn't swing the matchup enough that she has like a winning or even matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would say the problem will always just be it's like Gecko still.
yeah,
It's like Jack's now just another layer of like annoyance for the deck to deal with. And it's like even if you get through my Jack, you still have to deal with my Gecko.
yeah, and like it's actually just so ridiculous because like in my run this weekend, the Bonnie I played, he's your friend, right, Chris Dez?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like he played three Dofis on me, and I removed two of them by just going Ice Age Gecko because I drew it like off the top, like Ice Age off the top. It's like three geckos in hand, draw three Ice Ages. Like oh okay, like turns out he needs four
Yeah.
10 Dofis to beat me. Like it's just so sad.
I think he played two Dofis against me. I killed the first one, but I couldn't kill the second. But at that point, my hand was like 2K, 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 Rebecca, Rebecca. So every turn, I just went punch your board, play a Rebecca the pass, and just grab a 2K.
Yeah, and it's also like so unfortunate for Bonnie that like they pretty much always need Hody to end games, especially in like a scramble. So like the math for like Hody lethal from like one life is like if they have no bodies and you have two 2Ks in hand, they never win. So you can always just risk Hody at that point if you have like a full clear. It's just like okay,
Yeah.
that sucks. Sucks as the Bonnie player.
Yeah. It feels like a lot of the time, like you can math them out on your end more than they can math you out on, just like on them trying to kill you.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I think like especially in like my game with Chris, I was at 2 life. He had Hawkins Dofi on board, and I had like 5 2Ks with a blocker. So I'm like, you have to Hody me or you lose. You
Mhm.
Hody me, you still lose. Like I just don't know what you do here.
Yeah. Let's see. Any other matchups? Or is that all of them? I think that's all of them, right?
Uh, Probably blue.
Oh,
Dofi's a
but
little bit
you know
important.
what? I don't know why I forgot about talking about Dofi. Our Dofi matchup is it's favored in general, or like you can maybe argue even if depending on like the Dofi build, but like in general it's favored. But like with Soap Sheep, we prevent ourselves from losing to like the Giga high rolls if we see it, which is like really important because like you just don't want to lose gate or shave games and lose like versus Dofi if you can help it. Like if you're gonna see three maybe every run.
I think that's been my average actually.
Yeah,
I think it was like 4-3-3 for me.
yeah. I think I played about three every single run, and like I think I've only lost to like one Dofi so far.
Yeah, I think I'm 9-1 into Dofi so far.
Mm-hmm. So like yeah, you definitely want first against Dofi. You just don't want to give them the chance to like aggro you down if you can, and it gives and going first gives you a good window to play Brook on your second turn, and especially if they only see one drop, Brook popping that 1/1 drop can be very impactful later on, especially when they need to start considering like playing bounce law to bounce like your Lucci or your Brook, because then they have to take the time to allocate down to either play another one drop or bounce like a 5K, which is very bad for them. Like at any point that another 5K like gets bounced instead of like a one cost, like the game slows down a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the best thing is just like, yeah, you snipe the one searcher, then it's like they can't do Jinbei Law. Like it's just not a play that they should be able to do now because it's so much of a, like a like it sets them back so much. I think they actually just lose the game on the spot a lot of the time if you just have like Ice Age Lucci or Soap Sheep Lucci from there.
Yeah, like especially like the other yeah, that's the other thing that like I guess we don't talk about a lot when we talk about Soap Sheep is like if they play if they only have one Jinbei and then you play it and then you play Soap Sheep Lucci on your five into a Jack, and they don't have a second Jinbei, the game is like pretty much over. They're just
Yeah.
so like behind because they couldn't aggro you before their your first big body hit the board, which is like it creates like having soap sheep gives you a blowout hand essentially.
Yeah. You can like God High Roll them, and then like it's hard for them to God High Roll you with this build, and it's just also like I think like if you ever get jacked down on 7 and in like comfortable position with like 3 or 4 life, I think you auto win a lot of the time because then from there you should have triple removal every turn before you even swing a body.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, they just get too like I feel like from there they just get slowly like blown out. And then at that point it's just like, oh yeah, you have a gecko to back your jack, you probably just win on the spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like definitely the name of the game against Dofi is just like you need to stabilize to your top end. The game is very hard if you don't actually see a top end, but if you do, like things are smooth sailing.
Yeah. I think so far I've most of my Dofi opponents either like we go like into a grind game and then it's just like, oh yeah, you play Soap Sheep, so you have like extra like cards off your gecko.
Mm-hmm.
Or I had two last weekend actually, where like it felt like it's basically just a blowout game because I went Lucci on 5 with Soap Sheep and they didn't have the gas to keep up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, like the build is like has so much reduction in it with the extra copies of Suru. We kept Helmeppos and we added the Hina that you have a lot of configurations that let you kill things with Brook. So you should be able to stabilize early if you choose to run our build. Um I will say that like for people who haven't tested the matchup enough, I mean I hope you are testing it, but like Tempest Kick for me, I just like they're just there as a cycle. I never keep them in hand really.
I cycle one, I keep the rest
Yeah.
normally.
It's mostly
Because every time I cycle more than just the one, I feel like I like late game need the extra reduction because I just don't always draw all my ice ages obviously. So it's like
mhm.
I don't think I'm comfortable with giving up more than one.
I mostly only like try to cycle the second one if I still haven't found a removal. To be honest, like the main thing
Yeah.
is that you need to cycle into a removal, and like if you don't see a removal in your first 2-3 turns, then like yeah, the game's gonna be hard. Like you probably lose if you don't see a removal early, but like you should, right? Like there's so much removal that you should.
Yeah. I was saying, it's also just like with Rebecca, you're essentially running 4 copies extra of like any of your removal pieces, and it's just like you should at some point see one of them.
Yeah. Um, it does come up that if people play teach against you like in the early turns and you hit the trigger on the first life, you should pop the teach. Like in some hands, like I just remove teach like immediately, and sometimes ignore the first 4 cost if it isn't like a 6K. I don't know about you, like because sometimes like I don't have I'll have the reduction
Um,
for the first 4 cost, so I'll be like swing, brook, kill teach.
yeah, I was gonna say I have had that a lot actually, where it's like you go second or like you go first, but their forward on turn is like they have to teach,
Yeah,
and they put themselves on like they teach, and then I think it's just like even if they play double body from there somehow, then it's like it's still rested, and then you snipe teach. But yeah, if they do like teach rested 6K, I think it's like busted for you because there's like you don't even play a body from hand that turn, and you just go swing brook snipe teach, and then like everything else should be allocated to punching their 6K.
yeah, yeah. So like
Because then you're just like my jack is always free from there.
mhm. Yeah, like so in the early game, if you have the resources to kill teach, you generally should. Like of course you don't do it like or like greed like killing teach if there's like 3 bodies on board, like they play like Jinbei Weevil or something, right? You do need to kill the 5K body. But if it's only like one body and you have the option between the 4 cost and the teach or the early game, I would kill the teach a lot because like it gives them way
Oh,
too
I
much
killed the teach
flexibility.
on the forecast.
Like
Like
it,
if my opponent goes like teach Jinbei Weevil, I'm doing Ice Age Weevil, and then I'm doing Lucio teach.
yeah, yeah. If you have Lucci, right? But like say it's say it's Brook, like you should kill the 4 cost. Like you shouldn't kill the
Yeah,
teach.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You have to kill the 6K at that point. That's too much pressure. I get what you're
Yeah,
saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But I think if you have double pop, I think I'm always killing Teach over 4K or
yeah.
over a 4 cost.
Yeah, like the amount of like flexibility having teach on board gives your Dofi player, like it's too much. It's too much sometimes, unless you have like a really wild hand. Like your blowout hands have to be crazy.
Yeah. But also like from their end, it's like they're only playing like if they're playing Teach, they're probably playing like three Teach, four Perona. So it's like forcing them to have the Perona and then have the ability to allocate that Dawn every turn for the Perona going forward is just like too important.
Yeah, for sure. And then like obviously play. You have to play around femur. Like camping two two life, one life is like important. You need to like be able to be flexible on like two life, one life for sure. Like you can't
As I
hard stay
say,
at two. You can't hard stay at one because like you'll either take too fast or you'll just run out of
yeah,
cards.
I think a lot of it just comes down to understanding your hand state. Honestly, like a lot of the time, I will defend like on their four down turn, I will defend the 5k swing if I already have the outside need for double body, and like
Hmm.
the next turn, I'll just like make it to where like my jack comes down with a four life leader.
Yeah, just pacing your hand essentially. Like it's important.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then like some Duffy players are like on like weird trying different techs now, right? Like they're trying like 10 cost draw Kaido to like improve like their BY matchup or whatever, or like they're running more copies of Gravity Blade. Like honestly, the techs don't matter to you. Like it and like scouting it out, like or trying to get a feel for whatever they're doing to you, like it doesn't matter. Like if they play Kaido and
I,
you have the out, they lose on the spot. If you don't have the out, you just have to block her up until you have an out to Kaido. It's that kind of thing.
yeah. I think actually no, I take it back. I actually lost the Luffy I lost the Dofi twice because I lost to it last weekend actually because he had like triple Jinbei. I got him down to like two cards for life.
Yeah.
And then he had chain Kaido and I couldn't kill the first one, but I was already at one life and I'm just like I think I just lose here now.
Yeah, that is like one like unfortunate thing is like with the Kaido, I guess it does like make the Dofi matchup like or the Dofi matchup gets better for them because like they can grind you out of resources and then like a lot of times you aren't in a racing position and they drop Kaido and then get back all their resources to do it again. Like it can be kind of unfortunate, but like there's no counterplay for you there. It's just like you have to like pray your hand was smooth enough in the early game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at
I
the end,
think Hina actually helps a lot with that too.
mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure.
Because like if Jack ever sticks, which he did for me this weekend, I had a lot of times where it was like Tempest kick Hina with Gecko, and like it just blew them out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of
I
time.
think I did it with
But
two of my geckos or two of my duffies actually. It was like that exact play to kill their Kaido and like spam them, grab back like a soap sheep or whatever, and then from there they just lose.
mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, like it's pretty straightforward. Have removal. All right. Am I missing any matchups now? Purple Luffy. Purple Luffy.
Yeah.
Like now. So right now in 8.5, I like the matchup can actually kind of go either way depending. Like because they still have to play Magellan essentially because like the rest of the Straw Hat package is not coming out to 09. Like if they see multiple Magellans in a row, like in the early game, like you're not gonna win really. It's very tough. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, as I say, I think besides Magellan chaining, as long as you just like see removal, you should probably win that matchup on average.
Yeah, like on average you should, but like definitely like don't feel like bad if there's like Magellan into like Luffy Taro, like Rip Luffy Taro, something like that, right? Like it
Yeah.
happens.
Like the biggest dream is they don't have Nightmare Luffy and you get down, or they don't have Magellan and then you get down Nightmare Luffy to like counter Magellan for the rest of the game. That feels really good as well because
Yeah.
their only real outs to it are Big Momming him or Lin Lanning it or
No.
Nine Drop Kaidoing it. I mean,
Yeah, and but honestly, like a lot of
yeah,
times, if they play Lin healing you, you should be in a good spot.
yeah,
So like that's like one thing that's nice is like the indicator that you're in a good spot is if they're healing you because they're scared of your removal or whatever.
yeah. If they're forced to clear your board with like Lin I think you're just like you're too far ahead because like giving like Lucci a life when he's already a five life leader is actually like way too game warping a lot of time for them.
Yeah. Hmm.
I think Usopp, the three cost 2k counter is like the
Oh,
only card as a Lucci player you should be scared of. Is like just making sure you play around it because it can rest Sabo or Rebecca. You have to like make sure that you're playing around that card.
yeah. Okay, I think that covers every matchup now. Hopefully, I didn't miss one.
Um, I think we got everything. I mean, we can talk about Nami, but I think Nami is literally just like I think that's just more of like a general like as long as you know how to play against Bonnie, it doesn't change really with this deck.
Yeah, like Nami is just you shouldn't see them normal like anymore right now just because of Dofi running around. But if you do, like, hey, listen, the matchup's not favored. You just try to play his bodies and swing good numbers. Is all I could say. Like it's like a whole discussion on what correct numbers are, really, versus Nami because I think it
Yeah.
changes based on Dawn.
Yeah, and it's a whole mini game in itself as well.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but I think I've only seen one so far this set, or since like starters dropped, and that was at Wisconsin.
Hmm. Yeah, I haven't
So,
seen one. So.
yeah, I think one in top in EU, but I don't think there's been any results for her in A.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think maybe one topped in Oceania as well, maybe, but I don't know.
Probably. They love Nami. I swear, I feel like all of the results I see for Nami come from Oceania, like more than like other regions.
Hmm. Okay, so
But yeah.
let's wrap up. Do you want to talk about what uh about if we're making any changes to the deck list, or you want to just say that for later?
I mean, I don't think I really have that many changes. I think
Yeah.
I cut Who's Who for a one of a four cost Kaku just to like have
Hmm.
the extra little punch of reduction just in case.
Yep. The
And
emergency button.
then I fixed my Suru Khalifa ratio because I didn't get to last weekend, and I think that was it. I think besides the 2K lineup, like I like everything else about the deck list.
Yeah, same. Uh, I might not even run the Kaku, but like, just because I like having four copies of Who's Who, but like, it's such like a small difference, like changing one copy that like the deck
It
fundamentally
just
works the same.
Yeah, it just might come up enough where I'm like, with three Who's Who, I see you enough. Between you and Brooke, I should be good.
Yep.
So I'd rather have the Kaku for like the bailout against like the grindy matchups where you don't see Hina.
Yeah, for sure. I guess just to offer it to people, like if we took out the nightmares, where would you put the slots back? I think like for me, I would always just put the slots back into like the fourth Brook and uh one extra helmet though. I think like I sometimes like you just want to see it, like you just really need to see it actually.
Honestly, honestly, I think with two Sura, two Helmeppo, I think I'm doing fourth Brooke, second Hina.
Sekinina, fair enough. Yeah, I think it's a good option as well.
That or maybe third Soap Sheep and play 11 reducer events again, but I mean, I don't think you need it. I think I'd honestly rather play the Hina. I feel like the Hina's a little flexible.
Yeah, I agree.
But
Okay.
I'm not cutting Nightmare.
Yeah,
He's too
same.
good. My
He's just so
boy.
nice, bro. Especially now that he has an alt. I'm not cutting that.
I don't play alts. We don't need those.
Well, okay, buddy. All
They're
right.
scary.
So thanks everyone. We'll call it here. Hopefully this. Are you in the next two treasure cups, Grayson? Because there's one this weekend.
I'm
Uh,
in Jose, I'm in the 14th. I'm
yeah.
trying to get into the booster box. I already DM'd the TO to see if I could get in.
Hmm.
And then if not, I'm waitlisted, so I'm hopefully gonna get in one of the two ways.
Okay. Hopefully.
Because I'm trying to get this I'm trying to keep the streak going.
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
goal is to have 5 Cavendishes.
Jesus.
So I can sell them all to Fee.
No, no, no. I'm not buying this.
We had 4 treasure cups or 5, because we had one
uh,
this last weekend, the one the weekend before that. But did we have one the first weekend where it was double in person or no?
yes, there was a
Okay,
treasure cup at the same time. Yeah.
that's what I thought. So yeah, I'm gonna miss one, so I can only get 4. Because
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's only 5 for this rotation, which is actually kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's a little weird for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, then we have Nats soon. I'm not gonna complain.
Yeah. So anyway, if you made it this far, appreciate you guys for watching. We'll probably update our so we wrote a Lucci guide. We haven't posted it yet, but we'll probably post a Lucci guide on our Patreon at some point. And yeah, and then after this next tournament, we'll probably be working on OPO9 content and
Yeah.
get a podcast out probably right before the Dallas and Utrecht regional.
Yeah, I'm excited actually for seeing what happens over for the Dallas regional. I'm curious if like lists change a ton for 8.5, like between the first in person and the last one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah,
sad
it'll
I
be.
can't go, but I'll watch.
Maybe I'll fly in last minute, but we'll see.
Yeah, and then honestly, yeah, and then we'll have the updated Lucci guide, and then I probably might just update it for 9 as well soon because I don't think the matchup spread changes too much, honestly.
No, we just add the couple matchups, right? And like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and you
whatever.
just add the tech cards.
Yeah, so we'll get that out, and so we appreciate everybody for watching. Have a good one.
See you
All
guys.
right.